Good morning everyone, it's happening. I have the Tesla Model 3 Highland here, 2024 model, the newest model, and of course we have my Volkswagen ID.7 here, and today we're going to do a little consumption test. I wanted it to be better but it's hard to do since this car is from a Tesla service center. We only have it for a few hours, so we have to do the whole test as fast as we can, so we won't drive that far. Also, the Tesla was charged fully when I picked it up, so we cannot do a comparison with charging, because I'm charging ID.7 to 80%, otherwise it will take also way too long, and I didn't want to charge anyways at 98% to 100. So what we're going to do is we take two cars. Cindy is here. Cindy's going to drive the ID.7 and I'm going to drive the Model 3. Going to go in one direction and back, drive with 130 and then 110. She will drive behind me. And then we come back here and see what consumption difference and state of charge difference we have. Let's go through the specs. I have a list here. Battery size. Model 3 has 74, ID.7 77 kilowatt hours usable, but I have tested the ID.7 many times. I never got more than 74 out of the battery so far. WLTP range 621, ID.7 is behind me, 629 kilometers here on the Model 3. Power 286 horsepower, 498. Weight, Model 3 is 270 kilometers lighter. It's 9 centimeters shorter, so height-wise, 20 centimeters shorter lengthwise. Width is the same. Trunk space, 594 liters in the ID.7, 532, really? Here we have a frunk with 88 liters. ID.7 doesn't have a frunk. Then base price of the Model 3 is 52,000 euros, but except for tires and self-driving autopilot, everything is in the car. The ID.7 starts at 57,000 euros. And leasing, if you're leasing both cars at the starting price with 10,000 kilometers, 24 months, 0 euros paying up front, Model 3 is 1,177 euros right now. Can change. ID.7 is 784 euros. Leasing in Tesla was always expensive. Model Y is okay right now because there's 0% leasing. But I'm excited to see. Cindy's gonna stay behind me for the whole way with a good distance, because she doesn't know the area. She never does that. It's hard for her, and I get it. I don't wanna stress her too much. We're driving 130 right now in this first direction. Back we're gonna drive 110. I started in here with 98%. We're now at 88 after 34 kilometers. Average consumption is 211. Cindy is behind me. I have no idea what her data is. She started at 80%, and she's accelerating a bit more than I would. I can see that, but that's okay. At 50 kilometers we're gonna turn around and drive then slower back so we can see a difference, and I'm gonna call her before we turn around. We just turned around, I called her and I have the numbers and they're very interesting. I was like now at 193 watt-hours per kilometer. Cindy in the ID.7 is at 190. So less consumption, tiny bit less consumption. I used 18%, she used 17%. That is interesting and awesome for Hank. We'll see at the end and especially after charging. We are around 25 kilometers away from our destination, still driving 110. Consumption went down to 184 watt-hours per kilometer. We're looking at trip A, 94 kilometers driven. It was 60 kilometers when we turned around, so I'm guessing 120. Going back to the same charger that we started. Will be interesting to see what Cindy has in the ID.7. She's still behind me with a good distance. I don't think that the drag is any different to her than to me. That's 100 meters or so. It should be fine. I'm pretty sure that she has the heat higher than me, 21.5, and I'm warm. I'm pretty sure she has more than 22. I'm just guessing. This video is supported by Maingau Autostrom. With Maingau, you can charge at over 500,000 charging stalls all over Europe. You can charge your session with a card, with a chip, or with the app. And the app now just got a new facelift. It looks way better, it acts faster, and it's also easier to use. In the map view, you can easily see where there is a DC charger, at what speed it can charge, and of course how many stalls are available. You can filter the map view also very easily with a one-click button to above 50 kilowatt chargers, above 100 and above 150 kilowatt chargers. For more info, check out the link in the description below. I arrived with 68%, used exactly 30%, average consumption 175, 124 kilometers driven. ID.7 arrived with 50%, so also used 30% and 174 watt-hours per kilometer. There we are. Well, that was amazingly interesting. 125 kilometers driven, almost same consumption. At home, there will be a part after my stupid talking here where I'm analyzing the data, tell all the details, tire size and heating and everything. And then we analyze exactly the data, who has better consumption. But what I see, it's very, very similar, and I'm very happy for Hank. At 130, I think ID.7 was a bit better. At 110, the Model 3 was better. That's why we arrived very close together at the end. Awesome, that was amazing. Again, if there's someone out there with a Model 3 in the area of Passau, we can do a real test together. I would love to do that, a longer test, maybe even with charging and stuff like this, to compare the cars better. I only have the car for another hour. I have not charged, and drive a bit and do a driving test. Video coming, and then that's it. Awesome. I analyzed the data. I will put up all the numbers that I have. We drove 9 to 10 degrees was the outside temperature. A Model 3 has 235 45 R18 tires on all tires, and my ID.7 has 235 and 255 in the rear, 235 in the front, but 19-inch tires. My ID.7 doesn't have a heat pump. A Model 3 has a heat pump. Heat in the Model 3, I had it on 20.0 21.5 degrees, sometimes even lower. Cindy in the ID.7 always had it at 23.5, but we see when she arrived at the charger at the end that the heat is not doing anything, because you see the instant consumption and it says 0.3. That means no heat, because it was also very sunny, and that helped a lot. I don't know if a heat pump at 9 to 10 degrees is that efficient. I have no idea. Maybe it's more efficient than at that. I don't know. We drove 70 minutes. The trip meter of the Model 3 was spot on with 124 kilometers. That's what Google Maps says too. ID.7 was above, and that's why the shown consumption of the ID.7 is too low, and the real consumption is 175.4 watt hours per kilometer, and in the Model 3 it's exactly 175, because that was the number shown. State of charge, they both use 30%. ID.7 80 to 50, Model 3 98 to 68%. That's why they have the exact same range, 413.3 kilometers at these conditions, at this speed. Average speed was 106.3 kilometers per hour. Calculated battery size is on both also very similar, 72.5 kilowatt hours. That's heat loss and everything included, so of course you don't get the exact number that you want. Okay, so when I see those numbers, they're both exactly the same, which is awesome. ID.7, which is heavier and at 9 centimeters taller, and no heat pump, had the same consumption as a Model 3 with 18-inch wheels, and that's really great. What you're gonna say is, hey, the Model 3 was always behind you, so less drag. The ID.7 was always behind the Model 3. Cindy really kept a good distance, so not 10-20 meters, no, it was 50 to 100 meters, really good distance. And what Cindy did, and what the Model 3 didn't do, Model 3 I drove with cruise control, and I accelerated very slowly. So when I had to accelerate, I really tried, like I always do when I drive range tests on consumption tests, I really want to not waste power or anything. I'm not accelerating fully or anything. Cindy did. So every time when I was a bit away because a car was in between, she accelerated a bit. Not fully, but I saw her, ooh, she's coming. And I even mentioned it in the video. So she did that many times. I would say at least 10 times when we were not in good distance, and then, I don't know, car was and having to pass and something was busy. Then she gave it a bit of power. Not floor it, like I said, but and I think the drag was really, the distance was just, very rarely she was close to me where I would say, yeah, now the distance is not amazing, but I don't think it has any effect. So they were both the same, which is awesome. The ID.7 had one advantage over the Model 3. Since we drove from home to Regensburg to pick up the Model 3, we drove for an hour. Battery was, I'm sure, not hot, but warm. And of course the interior temperature was warm, all fine. When we picked up the Model 3, we had to drive 5 kilometers, around 10 minutes to get to the charger, and I had the heat on at 23 degrees and then turned it down when we drove with the test. So the car interior was also warm, but the battery, I'm pretty sure, was not as warm as the ID.7. I'm pretty sure that had an impact. Even though, like I said, it was 9 to 10 degrees, it wasn't freezing. So the battery, even overnight, I think the minimum temperature that night was like 6 degrees. So it wasn't a frozen battery or anything. And then after a bit of driving, I'm pretty sure the battery would have been at an okay temperature, even though, again, I didn't floor it. And what I noticed is that the Model 3 doesn't have an option. I haven't seen it. Maybe it does it automatically and is smart, that when I select the temperature for the car, it doesn't heat up just the area where I'm sitting, because I'm the only one in the car. It seems like it's heating the whole car. ID.7 has the function when there's just a driver in there, it just heats up the area where the driver is and not the rest. But we had the dogs with us, our 3 dogs in the rear, and the seatbelt for the dogs was in, so the rear is being heated as well. So almost the passenger side is not being heated, but the rest of the car is being heated. Charging. Afterwards, after the test, I charged both cars to the same state of charge that we had when we started. I didn't film that because I had to already film everything and prepare everything for the driving test of the Model 3, because after this test I did a little driving test. It was awesome, by the way. Model 3 drives great. They improved a lot, suspension and the noise level. Steering is still the same. It's not my thing, but a lot of Tesla drivers love that. It's very direct and that's fine. It's just not my thing, but they improved the Model 3 really well. Great car. I charged then the Id.7 from 50 to 80%. Charge limit was at 80%, so it stopped itself, and it charged 23.5 kilowatt hours. That would mean a consumption of 189 watt hours per kilometer. I charged the Model 3 from the 68% that we had here to the 98. I myself stopped the charging when the 97 jumped over to 98. Before there was the charge limit was set to 80%, so it stopped charging. I had to restart charging, and for whatever reason it charged 26.7 kilowatt hours. It would be a consumption of 215 watt hours per kilometer, extremely high. So I don't think that the Model 3 did heat up the battery, as it was 68%, so very high state of charge. It was 9-10 degrees and very sunny. I even heard the fan when we were charging of the Model 3, that it was cooling the battery. I don't think heating the battery was here a problem. What I noticed every time when I went into the car, even though I wasn't in, so when I was in and then went back out again, I didn't lock it, that the heat was running. So the heat was running the whole time to the 21.5 degrees that I said it before. Even though I wasn't in the car, I was just charging it. I was gone, I was away from the car for 10 minutes of that charging session, but not the whole time. The ID.3 charged for 19 minutes, the Model 3 charged for 34, but again, very high state of charge. So I doubt the battery was being heated. It was the interior heating that screwed up the charging here. It took the power for the heating from the charger. So 3 kilowatt hours more for half an hour of charging. Of heating would also be a lot, because I doubt, so 3 kilowatt hours more than the Id.7. Id.7 wasn't heating its interior for the whole time. There was no one in the car, and when you get out of the seat it stops heating, so I put it in that mode. So I doubt that the Model 3 was heating up the interior with 6 kilowatt for half an hour. That's also something that's weird. So I don't know where these kilowatt hours come from. To be honest, again, maybe it's the cooling plus the heat. Maybe it had to cool because there was steam coming out underneath. And by the way, when we talk about degradation, the Model 3 also had under 2,000 kilometers. It's a very new car, and my Id.7 has around a bit over 5,000 kilometers. So both reasonable new cars. I'm sure I have a bit of degradation already in a Model 3, maybe a tiny bit, but not a lot. And so it was a really great test. I enjoyed it a lot. I think, like I said in the video, at slower speeds, Model 3 consumption is better than the Id.7, but at higher speeds, I think they're the same, or Id.7 a tiny bit better. I hope we can find someone in the area with a Model 3 Highland all-wheel drive with the big battery. I would love a rear-wheel drive with a big battery, but it doesn't exist. And I'm pretty sure that the Model 3 is smart enough that when you don't floor it, that the front motor is not doing anything to reduce consumption. I'm pretty sure, and then it's just a bit more weight, that the difference from rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. And as we could see in the data, it's 270 kilogram lighter than the Id.7, so it's already amazing. Yes, so if there's anyone in the area who wants to drive a bit further, maybe do a charging session, you can charge the superchargers, I take Ionity or something, and then we see how we're doing. That would be amazing. But that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day and take care. Bye.